How's it going, all you beautiful people? Is the Pokemon market crash over? On January 1st, 2026, I got the price of every single ETB from Scarlet and Violet base forward. And the reason why I chose ETBs is I know that people typically think about prices from booster boxes, but I chose ETBs because I don't want to exclude sets like 151 and Prismatic. So I just use ETBs. So I got every single ETB, and this is an ETB, every single price of this from Scarlet and Violet base forward. And we're going to see how the prices have changed from January 1st to now, a week later. So to start off, Scarlet and Violet base has two ETBs. Scarlet and Violet base Miraidon. Last week it was 9208, and this week it's 10898. So that's an 18.35% increase. And by the way, I'm using lowest price listing for my pricing. I know that people typically price in different ways, and just to speed up the process and to make it consistent, I'm just going to use lowest price listing for these ETBs unless there is something off when looking at it. But anyways, the Scarlet and Violet base Miraidon went up 18.35% from last week to this week. And just to confirm that this $108.98 today is what is valued at, I looked at the five most recent sales, and it's $107, $92, 100, 100, and 110. The problem with looking at the past sellings is this $92 can be $92 base, and it can technically not include shipping. So just every time for the rest of the video, I mention previous sales, and you see one number that's 10-20% lower than the other sales, it's probably because there was shipping in there. So a lot of people on TCG Player will list an item for $100, but some people will list it for $92 plus $8 in shipping. So it's the same $100. So that's what's missing on the previous sold. So you're going to see a variance on previous sold. I mean, some people could have listed something to just sell it really fast, but if they do that, then it's probably going to sell pretty fast if they list ETB 10-20% lower than what all the lowest listings are listed at. But anyways, I wanted to see if this 9208 was actually true on January 1st. So I looked at the two sales before January 1st, and they were $92 and $94.46. So it looks like it was correct. I mean, technically this can have shipping too, but I just looked at those two. But anyways, this went from about $92 to $109. So that's about an 18.35% increase. Scarlet and Violet base Koraidon went from $86, $86.91 to $95.99. So that is a 10.45% increase. So these Scarlet and Violet base ETBs, they both went up pretty big. It's only 1 week, only in 7 days. And I looked at the last five sales of this too. $107, $96, $97, $100, $96. So the lowest price listing of $95.99 is actually the least sold, the least priced ETB in the last five sold. There was even one sold for 107 and 100. And to check that this 86.99 on January 1st was true too, I looked at the I looked at several sales before January 1st, and the sales I saw were $82, $80, $94, and $94 before January 1st. So I would say this 86.91 probably falls within the ballpark. But anyways, these two Scarlet and Violet base ETBs went up a lot. Next is Paldea Evolved. This one went from $124.97 to $126.97, an increase of 1.6%. So not as much as these Scarlet and Violet base ETBs, but mind you, this is just 1 week. The last five sold 113, 127, 115, 125, 130. And these 113 and 115, I'm assuming it's either someone wanted to get rid of them really fast or they had shipping with it, and the previous solds don't include that. Obsidian Flames, $159.60 last week, $163.99 this week. So that's the lowest listing, and that's an increase of 2.75%. The last five sold 159, 169, 159, 169, 172. So there's been the boxes sold for more than this price that I'm listing it at 163.99 in the last 5 sold. 151. I know this is a big one, a hot one. This one's going to go out of set this year in a couple months. And a lot of people are looking for 151 products. There hasn't really been 151 ETBs on the market. So I don't know if you guys know, but there is a premium to ETBs. Like, for example, 151, it's about $380. I'll get into the price. A 151 booster bundle is about $100, and that doesn't really make sense because 151 booster bundle is about $100, and two booster bundles, they have more packs than the packs in a 151 ETB, and two booster bundles are equal to about 210 market price right now. One ETB is $380 about, and the promo inside of the ETB is only $15, so it's not the promo that's carrying it. So there is a premium to sealed ETBs. That is something that's interesting. Anyways, a 151 ETB last week went from $375.87 to $377.98. So there's an increase of a 0.56%. Not as large as the other ones we've seen, but there was an increase. The last 5 sold $399, $374, $373, and then there was a $325 and $300, a lot lower than these listings. But I did look at the postings, or they basically said they were damaged, so, or ripped, and ripped products typically sell for less than market, so that's why these two 325, 300 are a lot less than this 378 that I'm saying it's valued at today. Paradox Rift, there's two ETBs. So the Paradox Rift Iron Valiant went from $93.27 last week to $96 this week. So that's a 2.93% increase. The last 5 sold 98, 96, 95, 95, 90. So I think saying 96 is pretty fair. Paradox Rift Roaring Moon, it went from $104.93 to $103.30. So it dropped about 1.55%. This is the first ETB that dropped so far on this list, only 1.55%, but this won't be a regular pattern. Majority of these, I guess you'll just have to wait and see, or you can just look at the table that is on the screen right now. But you'll see there's not a lot of ETBs that went down in price for the last week. So the last 5 sold 103, 103, 103, 103, 102. Paldean Fates, this is another big one. This set's going to go out of print in a couple of months. So I haven't really seen a Paldean Fates ETB in the wild too. So there is a premium to Paldean Fates ETBs, just like for 151. Last week it was $264.20. This week is $268.78. So it went up about 1.73%. Last 5 sold 290, 279, 270, 279, 280. So the last 5 sold are all a decent amount higher than, not a decent amount, but a little bit higher than this 268.78. And I did look at the other listings. There's 3 listed for $268.78. And then after that, it jumps to $288. So technically, this Paldean Fates next week can have a little bit of an increase if no one, I guess, lists it for lower than this $288, which is totally possible. I mean, maybe people are waiting for this $269 to sell, and then they're going to list theirs. Temporal Forces has 2 ETBs as well. Iron Leaves EX, it went from $82.25 to $80. That's a drop in 0.31%. So that's the second drop. Not that much of a drop, 0.31%. The last 5 sold 88, 79, 80, 80, 80. And then Temporal Forces Walking Wake went from 82.31 to 93.88. So this was an increase of 14.06%. Last 5 sold 74, 94, 94, 85, 85. This 74 is a good example of something that had shipping in it. I was actually able to see the shipping because if you look at the sale history on TCG Player, if they put a picture, you can actually click on the picture and see it. And when I clicked the picture, it said it was $74 plus $10 in shipping. So it's actually $84. Twilight Masquerade, one of the ones that I think in my previous video, if you watched it, I said there were 3 things that I think are currently underrated for the price that they are. Twilight Masquerade, Surging Sparks, and Prismatic Evolutions. But Twilight Masquerade, it went from $66.93 last week to $68.97 this week. So that's a 3.05%. Last five sold 71, 70, 70, 64, 71. So four of the five last sold are actually higher than 68.97. So we'll see what happens to this next week. Shrouded Fables ETB. Last week it was 73.40. Now it's 76.99. It went up 4.89%. So this had a little bit of a increase. I know 4.89% doesn't seem like much to a lot of you, but for example, if you had your money in the stock market and the S&P 500 went up 4.89% in a week, you would say that's heavy fluctuation. I know S&P 500 is a collection of the top 500 or 500 of the biggest companies in the United States. But you'll see later the average of all these two, or you can see in the chart right now. The overall gain of these ETBs so far to start the year is currently in an uptrend. So that's a good sign to see as like an investor if you want to see your Pokemon products grow in product, just because the 2025 kind of ended in a down year. Anyways, Shroud of Fable 73.40 to 76.99. Last five sold 81, 79, 79, 70, 79. So four of these sold for more than the 76.99 that is currently the lowest pricing. Stellar Crown, it went from $97.74 to $92.38. That's an increase of 0.7%. Last five sold 82, 95, 82, 92, 82. I'm assuming these 82s had shipping in it. I mean, or people just wanted to sell for cheap and someone just bought it up really quick. I'm gonna assume that they had shipping in the selling. Surging Sparks went from 70 or 69.15 to 74.98. That's an 8.43% increase. Surging Sparks is one of the other ones I think was underrated and I think will do well over time. It was just so heavily printed. You would see Surging Sparks ETBs everywhere. Vending machines, big box stores, just anywhere you went, Surging Sparks ETBs were there. But as Surging Sparks ETBs have less and less in stock, I don't see it being one of the. Last week, Surging Sparks and Twilight were the two lowest priced ETBs on this list. I don't think those two are the worst sets in this list. But anyways, so it went up 8.43%. Last five sold 79, 77, 70, 78, 75. Prismatic Evolutions, another one that I think is very underrated. It got printed like crazy last year, but the prices are still holding strong. Last week it was $122.55. Now it's $123. So it went up 0.37%. Last five sold 123, 121, 121, 124, 116. Journey Together went from 84.23 to 82.99. So this one saw a decrease of 1.47%. Another one of a decrease, but majority of these went up. Last five sold 83, 85, 83, 83, 83. Destined Rivals. I know this is a hot set. A lot of people are looking out for this. There's currently reprints of Destined Rivals, but not. I don't really know if there's Destined Rivals ETBs out there. I know there's a lot of sleeves out there. I think there's booster bundles out there, but I know that currently people are getting some Destined Rivals packs out in the wild. But this went from 133.91 to 139.91, so it went up 4.48%. Last five sold 125, 135, 141, 125, 125. I'm assuming these 325s had shipping in them. I don't think, unless someone was just trying to get rid of it, maybe they needed cash really fast and they knew that listing there for that price, someone would buy it. But I would assume it had shipping in it. Black Bolt went from 84.25 to 87.99. That's a 4.44% increase. Last five sold 86, 88, 78, 86, 86. I'm assuming that 78 had shipping in it. White Flare went from 79.01 to 81.92. So that's a 3.68% increase. Last five sold 82, 80, 82, 80, 82. Mega Evolution Mega Gardevoir 75.74 to 78.99 from last week to this week. 4.29%. Last five sold 70, 79, 77, 77, 70. I'm assuming those 70s had shipping in it. Mega Evolution's Mega Lucario went from 84.63 to 85.74. That's a 1.31% increase. Last five sold 84, 81, 86, 84, 82. And last but not least, Phantasmal Flames went from 76.11 to 75.99. So it dropped 0.16%, so a small drop. Last five sold 74, 74, 74, 77, 76. So that's how all these ETBs looked from last week to this week. And if you categorize them from the biggest gain to the smallest gain, as you'll see on the screen now, Scarlet and Violet base leads it with, or Miraidon leads it with 18.35%. Temporal Forces Walking Wake 14.06%. But you can reference the table that you see on the screen now. But you'll see that out of all these ETBs, only 4 of them had a drop last week, and they're very small drops. 0.16, 0.31, 1.47, 1.55. So all these ETBs from last week to this week, and went from $2,506.04 to $2,585.72. So you got a 3.18% increase from all these products from last week to this week. So if you bought all these products last week, you would have spent $2,506.04, assuming you got a 100% market or the TCG lowest listing and you didn't get tax. Let's just take tax and shipping out of this. And this week, if you bought it, it would be $2,585.72. So you would have made almost $80 in 1 week of these ETBs. But this is a good sign for those of you that want the Pokemon market to become hot again. I know not everyone wants that because that makes products harder to get. But this is a sign showing that the market may be stabilizing and may be ready to get taken off. With Ascended Heroes coming out and with limited products in the first wave, who knows? Maybe Ascended Heroes will take the Pokemon market to the moon again, just because people are going to be having a hard time finding the product. I mean, I think in my last video, I didn't look for this one, but the last one of my last videos talking about Ascended Heroes, I think packs were selling for about $13 each from the 2 and 3 pack blisters that are coming out, and that's insane. And a lot of people think that that will be the price of singles for Ascended Heroes on the first wave of products because they're only going to have 2 and 3 pack blisters. So it's going to be a wave throughout 4 months. And then there's obviously going to be other products later in this year. But if you're at the end of this video, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you found this insight a little bit interesting. Just seeing, I know seeing 1 week of data isn't that interesting, but you'll start to see this table fill out. So for the rest of the year, I know a lot of people say, oh, the Pokemon market's going to crash. And a lot of people just talk on their emotions or what they want to happen. But the one thing is true, data doesn't lie. If I have all the data in front of me and see the data of how these ETBs are trending throughout the year, I mean, you can't deny the trend. Like, let's say all these ETBs fell 50%, then I would say that's a crash. All these ETBs at the end of the year are up 100%, then the market obviously did well. So we'll follow these ETBs every week. I'll be keeping track of these ETB prices every week, and then we'll see. But if you're still at the end of this video, let me know what you think is going to happen in the Pokemon market in the near future. Do you think it's going to go up? Do you think it's going to go down? What do you think is going to happen during Ascended Heroes? The new set got released too, or there's spoilers for it, so there's going to be a new set as well. But what do you think about the Pokemon market, and what do you think is going to happen for 2026 and throughout the rest of the year? Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.